Just as biomes typically occupy certain latitudes and longitudes, marine ecosystems typically occupy specific areas within the ocean. Ecologists usually divide the ocean into zones based on depth and distance from shore. Marine ecosystems based on distance from shore include the intertidal zone, shown here, the coastal ocean here, and the open ocean, everything past the coastal ocean. Zones based on depth include the photic zone and the aphotic zone. Within these zones live a number of different communities. Let's look at some of the different organisms in the photic zone and aphotic zone. Keep in mind that these images are not to scale. The sizes of these organisms are way off of what they ought to be. First, we see in the photic zone, we see a sea lion, herring, little fish, blue whale, the largest animal on Earth, great white shark, swordfish, flying fish. Between 200 and 1,000 meters deep, we see krill-like shrimp, ocean sunfish, big-eye tuna, cod, giant squid. Between 1,000 and 4,000 meters, we see viperfish, dragonfish. These fish start to look kind of weird compared to what we're used to. Bathypelagic anglerfish, snipe eel, and here's where things get really weird. 4,000 to 10,000 meters, we see a rat tail, a gulper eel, and a tripod fish. Marine phytoplankton are extremely important to their ecosystems. A common misconception is that they are too small to be important photosynthesizers. It's true that they're very small, but since the oceans cover 3/4 of Earth's surface, and each drop of ocean water down to a depth of 100 meters is home to thousands of phytoplankton, phytoplankton become extremely important. They actually produce 70% of Earth's oxygen and are the main consumers of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas. Organisms in the intertidal zone are submerged in seawater at high tide and exposed to air and sunlight at low tide. If you've ever gone and visited the tide pools, maybe in San Pedro, then that is what we call an intertidal zone. You can only see things living there when it's low tide, and at high tide they're underwater. These organisms then are subjected to regular and extreme changes in temperature. They are also often battered by waves and currents. There are many different types of intertidal communities. A typical rocky intertidal community exists in temperate regions where exposed rocks line the shore. There, barnacles and seaweed permanently attach themselves to the rocks. The coastal ocean extends from the low tide mark to the outer edge of the continental shelf, the relatively shallow border that surrounds the continents. Water here is brightly lit and is often supplied with nutrients by freshwater runoff from the land. As a result, coastal oceans tend to be highly productive. Kelp forests and coral reefs are two exceptionally important coastal communities. This circle shows the types of organisms that live in the intertidal zone. The open ocean begins at the edge of the continental shelf. So the continent really goes past the edge of the ocean, and it continues out a little ways, and then it drops way down. We can see that that's what we call the continental shelf, where it drops way off. So more than 90% of the world's ocean area is open ocean. Depth ranges from about 500 meters along continental slopes to more than 10,000 meters in deep ocean trenches. The open ocean can be divided into two main zones, according to light penetration. The photic zone, where the light can reach, and the aphotic zone, where light does not reach. The open ocean typically has low nutrient levels and supports only the smallest species of phytoplankton. Still, because of its enormous area, most photosynthesis on Earth occurs in the sunlit top 100 meters of the open ocean. The permanently dark aphotic zone includes the deepest parts of the ocean. Food webs here are based either on organisms that fall from the photic zone above or on chemosynthetic organisms. Chemosynthetic organisms are organisms that synthesize their own food like photosynthetic organisms, except they do not use light. They do it entirely using chemicals that can be accessed in the aphotic zone. Deep ocean organisms are exposed to high pressure, frigid temperatures, and total darkness. Benthic environments in the deep sea were once thought to be nearly devoid of life, but are now known to have islands of high productivity. Deep sea vents where superheated water boils out of cracks on the ocean floor support chemosynthetic primary producers.